what they talking about is that they was gonna use our science to conquer us. Make that shit make sense to me. How you gonna take my gun and shoot me with it? I'm not gonna never let you do that. So all of this stuff was the foundation to take over the land from the organic people to the land. Mm-hmm. It's a very specific group of a small number that wields great power. You a blood shield. What blood? The bloodline. You the one that's gonna take the fall to keep the bloodline safe. They got us believing that the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, and the Jewish Defense League is all pale faces. You remember Henry Ford, right? He wrote one called The Wandering Jew. Remember, I told you they used pale faces to block the institutions, right? And we had to invite massive amounts of pale faces to overrun the institutions so we can have friendlies, get the information and put it in the public domain. He's one of the ones that came to offer us a insight into what they was keeping concealed in the lodges before he came or before he wrote about it. He was about to publish this book. It's called International Jew. He was about to publish it, and they told him that if he tried to publish it, they would take Ford Motor Company from him. This is what set it off right here. What happened next? They took him to court, told him he was incompetent to run a multinational corporation like Ford Motor Company, and that they need to surrender Ford Motor Company to the government or to the people that was suing him, actually. So what did he do? He fought the case. He won in court. So while Henry Ford, he done published a book now, he in court. They saying he's incompetent and because he didn't have a formal education to run his company. So the guy that was prosecuting the case asked him all of these crazy ass questions about history, math, science, all kind of shit. He kept saying, I don't know. So he never asked him anything that he knew he would know the answer to, right? Henry Ford lawyer is listening. And he know that Henry Ford have scholars that work for him. So when Henry Ford lawyer get up, he said, that man asked you a bunch of difficult questions. How come you didn't know none of that? Right? Yeah. Henry Ford's response was, he asked me a question about history. I'm not a history buff. I don't understand everything about history. But I got a button on my desk that if I push it, a historian gonna come in. I'm gonna ask him the question. He's gonna give me the answer. I don't need to remember that shit. He asked me physics questions. I don't know nothing about physics. I'm not a physicist. But if somebody come in and physics is required, I push a button and the physicist is gonna come in the room to answer whatever the physics question of physics is. He asked me all of these mathematical questions. I'm not a mathematician, but if I got a button on my phone, if I push it, a mathematician to come in and solve any math problem he so choose to put on the board. I'm Henry Ford. I run Ford Motor Company. That's the only thing I know how to do. So anytime that your competence come under question, they're calling you an imbecile in law. An imbecile has no right to property he don't know how to manage. This is what they trying to use in a judicial system to wrestle the company from him. What he's telling them is that I'm not incompetent, nor am I incompetent to your system. Therefore, I can administer my own affairs. I'm not a ward of the state. He was actually challenging jurisdiction at that point. The whole judicial system is predicated upon the fact that we are all imbeciles in law. The Pope declared everybody in the world incompetent, that they were all wards of the Pope as imbeciles in law by papal bulls in the 1300s. This is called the execution of the white man's burden. Henry Ford is telling them that the white man's burden doesn't apply to him because he's competent to run his own affairs. This is what makes him win the case automatically. He's no longer an imbecile in law. He just proved it because he's letting them know he's competent enough to manage his own affairs. Right now, we're going to go to another book. We're going to go to Protocols of the Wise Men of Zion. Now, this is when I think Henry Ford published this to let everybody know this is the art of war for the oppressors that's coming to oppress us, or that came to oppress us, actually. This they art of war. This is their marching orders.
Mm-hmm.
This is the definition of how they're supposed to proceed. So William Cooper got it reprinted in the Behold the Pale Horse.
Yeah.
If you look, they're going to be covering a couple of key points to control the society at large of the Goyim. Dr. Neely Fuller wrote the counter because he knew it's a thinking war. If it's a thinking war, all of their strategies in this book has to be countered. He the one told me, if you want to know what's going on, you got to look at the whole situation from the eyes of the warden of a prison. He said, if you look at it any other different way, you're going to miss critical aspects. But most people don't know what a warden would see in a prison, right? The warden know every fart made in that motherfucker. The warden know. Half the COs don't know, but the warden know. Right? Now, if I understand that, then I know that the warden has to have infiltrators in here somewhere. The warrior got to have inmates on his payroll, which he do, and this informant is going to give them information that none of the other population is privy to, including the guards. So this person is going to be a motherfucker that can skate all around the prison and never get a ticket. And if one of the COs have a problem with him, he get transferred to another institution. If you know that somebody is in the prison keeping all the things in the prison in the awareness of the warden, then whoever it is in the warden seat of earth got motherfuckers relaying him messages. So now we playing Find Waldo. But how do we find Waldo in this scenario? Sit back, observe, and don't say shit.